Ram trucks built to serve.
Back here with Chris Broussard. So, guys, the NBA is set to restart July 30th in Orlando. There is plenty of debate these days on whether there will be an asterisk for whoever wins the title. Well, Steve Kerr made his stance quite clear. He said, quote, "The one thing I feel really strongly about is a championship under these conditions is going to count. People are going to want to put an asterisk next to it. There's no asterisk in my mind. This is going to be a brutally difficult journey to try and win a title." Nick, do you agree with Steve Kerr?
I almost fully agree with Steve Kerr. The reason I can't wholeheartedly agree with him is I try to be as honest as I can on this show and in life in general, but particularly on the show. Probably more honest on television than I am in real life, actually. That's a different story for a different day. The NBA is very different than any of our other major sports in America, which is underdogs never win the title in the NBA. Never. In fact, if I'm remembering correctly, only twice has a team ever won the title that wasn't one of the top 3 seeds. And both of them were the defending champions who just didn't have a great regular season. A Celtics team in the late 60s did it out of the 4 slot, and the Rockets famously did it out of the 6 slot the second year they won the title with Akeem. The year Jordan came back, remember, but they didn't make the finals because he lost to the Magic, but we pretended it didn't happen. Not the point. So the point I'm making is this. If you have a team like the Grizzlies win the title, then I think people will remember it as the quarantine year, the COVID year, because that never happens in the NBA. But if the Lakers, the Clippers, the Rockets, the Bucks, the Raptors, the Celtics, the Sixers, any of the teams that under normal circumstances we would say are viable options to win the title, then I think adding an asterisk would be ridiculous because those are the teams that would be winning the title anyway. So, Wilds, unless we have something totally unforeseen happen, I don't think a team like Milwaukee, if they win the title, they've been the best team all year, we should be like, well, how much does it really count?
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I'll give you 2 other reasons that I think could happen. The first is, like, if you think about the NBA, you think about NBA champions, just the visual when you're going through the montage of NBA champions and the confetti is falling down, this championship will look very different. It's going to be an empty arena. It's not going to look like this. So I think like the narrative is so formed by some of our great images that I think it's going to be weird looking. The second reason, Broussard, and you tell me what you think about this, is if a significant faction of players decide not to go, especially if a few stars decide not to go, we always talk about, I mean, Nick's going to lose his mind here. We always talk about LeBron won because Draymond missed that one game. But, like, if a significant amount of stars decide not to go, I think we could look back on and be like, yeah, but remember, that was the year that a number of players didn't play for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah, I'm fundamentally against the notion of the asterisk because every championship is different. And in the NBA, injuries have been a huge part of championships. But last year, we don't look at Toronto with an asterisk, even though Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson were hurt. We don't look at Golden State in 2015, even though Kyrie and Kevin Love were hurt, or even 2016 because Draymond was suspended, as you mentioned, Wilds. Heck, what about the 1970s, the early 70s, when Kareem won a title in Milwaukee and the Knicks won 2 rings? Half of the best players in the world were in the ABA, but we don't take away those titles and put an asterisk by them. So I'm against the asterisk. However, Nick, you made an interesting point, and so did you, Wilds, and here's what I'd say. What if LeBron and Giannis, and this won't happen, but if they decided not to play, or they got COVID and couldn't play, and the Clippers won, which would be obviously their first title, you know, it'd be great for the franchise. I think there would be a damper on that title. We wouldn't look at it the same because we're like, the Clippers won their first title, but LeBron wasn't there. Giannis wasn't there. Who'd they beat? So, look, historically, it won't be an asterisk. We give Tim Duncan 5 rings, not 4.5 or 4 because one of them was in a strike-shortened season or lockout season. So no asterisk, but in people's minds, there could be a lot of situations that make them, at least for a few years, look strangely at those titles. and then down the line, people will just count it as a regular championship.
But, Nick, there's got to be a reason why we're even talking about this, why it's being brought up all the time. Will there be an asterisk at the end of this season? Which teams, which players are coming and going? Why do you think there's so much talk about it then?
Well, I think some of it is earnest, and I think some of it is nefarious. I think that it is, I think the point Broussard made is fair. If you have, 3/5 of the All-NBA first team not play or get knocked out of the tournament because of COVID, then we are going to have to say, I understand why folks would say, well, what would have happened in a way different than a guy getting hurt? Because we look at getting hurt as part of sports very different than I can't go to the bubble because my wife is an expecting mother and I don't want to be away from her for 2 months, or because I came down with coronavirus. But I don't think that's the real reason there's this asterisk talk. I've been saying this for 2 months, and I know folks think I evoke LeBron's name too often, so I was very happy when I heard Dan Patrick, the great Dan Patrick, raise this exact same point about a month ago. The asterisk talk is a preemptive shot in case LeBron wins the title. It is a way for folks that don't want there to ever be a discussion about the greatest player ever to continue to try to denigrate the, at the very least, greatest player of his generation. At the very least that. Because by the way, you mentioned, Wilds, that people say, well, without Draymond getting suspended, he wouldn't have the one. And folks say, and if Ray Allen missed the shot, he wouldn't have that one. And if Kyrie misses that shot, in fact, you know what? He's actually 0-9 in the finals when you really think about it. Like, those takes exist. And so the reason that people, I believe, Wilds, have not you don't have many people flatly saying there's an asterisk on this postseason no matter what, is because the folks that want to be able to affix it if LeBron wins sure as hell want to be able to hang this around his neck if they don't. So they want there to be an asterisk if the Lakers win, but if they don't, even better, if they lose in the finals, they sure as hell don't want there to be an asterisk on 3 and 7 in the finals. So they're trying to play it both ways. I think they're trying to reverse engineer a LeBron argument because the Lakers are, at least in my mind, the overwhelming favorite to win this whole thing.
If it was Lakers Bucks and LeBron won, I don't think anyone would attach an asterisk to it. And Broussard, you could tell me your take on that. The other thing I want to bring up is Chris Mannix had a really interesting article in Sports Illustrated that he was expecting, just because of the layoff, that the play will be a little bit sloppy, and he was predicting that three-point percentage would really drop, which would really change the flow of the game. Broussard, I think if we see a statistical anomaly that's totally different than how teams operated and played during the year, I think that's another way of people will look at the championship a little crooked.
Well, I think as long as everybody's facing the same obstacles and circumstances, it's a legitimate championship, period. So that's how I look at it. They all have to deal with this lockdown and being in the bubble and all that. So whoever comes out on top, more power to him. But I agree completely with Nick. And look, let's face it, for the most part, we're talking about two guys, two of our great colleagues. And I've told the mighty Skip Bayless, I've said this to Skip, and I've said it to my radio partner, Rob Park, on The Odd Couple. You guys want to attach an asterisk to this if LeBron James wins. Now, both of them have told me that is not the case. Skip has said, he said Kawhi Leonard is going to win this championship, it's going to be the asterisk championship. So he's put that on the record. Let's see if he sticks to it. But I do agree with you, Nick. A lot of people just want to discredit LeBron if he wins this title.
And I just think that if the Lakers were this, let's say it was last year's Lakers, LeBron hadn't gotten hurt, or LeBron got hurt and they're the 7 seed, then it's a different story. But as Wild said, if we get Bucks Lakers, Bucks Clippers, Bucks Rockets, or Sixers, Raptors, Celtics, any of those teams against the top 3 teams in the West, then that's what we would have been getting anyway. That's what the NBA is. The NBA doesn't have multiple round upsets. So assuming that's what happens, Jenna, to me, there's no reason to even be having this discussion.
And yet we did, because it was a good one. We got to take a break. On the other side, guys, we're going to discuss Tom Brady. Woo! Tom